Hey, welcome back to Spooky Bricks. In this video, we're going to be looking at my mock of a haunted cemetery on Halloween night. So this cemetery is based on the Charter Street Cemetery in Salem, which is also known as Old Burying Point, and it's one of the oldest cemeteries in the country. It's the final resting place for several people who were involved in the witch trials, but unfortunately none of the victims were permitted to be buried there, and it's really not clear as to what happened to their remains. Unlike my other Salem mocks, it's not a meticulous detail for detail recreation. It's only loosely inspired by Old Burying Point, and it can be seen as just a generic spooky cemetery. As you can see, the build isn't just one big piece. I separated it out into 4 different sections. That way it's a little more versatile when it comes to how it can be displayed. So let's talk about the middle section first. Out front we have a large chained up iron gate, which again isn't really accurate to the real Old Burying Point Cemetery, which has a much more subtle entrance. However, I did make a custom sticker of the Old Burying Point sign. I used some reddish brown pieces on the gate to add a little bit of rust detailing. Past the gate there's a cobblestone pathway winding its way through the gravestones. I used some of the 2x3 pentagonal pieces for the gravestones, but I made some brick-built ones as well. I built the tombstones with a lot of 1x1 plates and round plates to give them a nice old decrepit look. And some stickers give them some extra detail. The reading room sticker is from a Harry Potter Diagon Alley set, but I thought it worked nicely as a tombstone. As we go back further into the cemetery, we come across a very frightened man with a lantern. Perhaps he's the caretaker, or just a curious tourist who's probably regretting his decision to sneak into the cemetery at night. Behind him we have a few more tombstones circling an old tree. I tried something a little new with this tree. I wanted to show some exposed roots reaching up through the ground. I depicted them using some of the seagrass pieces and wolverine claws in dark tan, and then I wrapped some gray string around those. This helped to create the look of a twisting, gnarled set of tree roots. And perched up in the tree we have a bat, keeping an eye on our cemetery visitor. Next, let's take a look at the section to the left, which I made a little side build for. Out front we have an old brick sidewalk littered with some vibrant autumn leaves. A lot of the sidewalks in Salem are made up of bricks, so I wanted to reference that here. The bricks are made up of reddish brown and dark red tiles, with some ingots thrown in there for some added texture. On either end we have a black lamppost decorated for the autumn season with some orange wreaths. And the bat on the top isn't meant to be a real bat, but instead just some ornate spooky detailing. The lamp posts are taken from a mock I made several years ago called Halloween Street, which depicts trick-or-treaters on a Halloween night. And when I say taken, I don't just mean I took the design concept, I mean I literally took them from it. At one point I thought about doing a Spooky Bricks video on this mock, as it's not only my first Halloween spooky mock, but also my first attempt at building brick-built fall trees. But over the past year or so, I've picked it apart for pieces, so it's really not in any condition right now for a video. So right now it's just waiting to be parted out, but elements of it still do live on in this mock. However, if you want to see what this mock looked like when it was still all put together, you can check out my Instagram page, and there's several pictures there. Strolling down the sidewalk, we have some happy trick-or-treaters, one dressed as a skeleton and the other as the Frankenstein monster, both of whom seem to be totally oblivious to the ghost right behind them, who may be a victim of the witch trials or one of the accusers doomed to haunt the cemetery for all of eternity. Further down the sidewalk, we have a man relaxing on a bench just enjoying a coffee, probably a pumpkin spice flavored coffee at that. Looming over everyone is a large creepy tree. I built this tree with the same technique as the tree next to the Daniel Bray house, using a variety of Technic pieces for some added strength and durability. Now, normally when I add string around the trunk of a tree, it's just for the sake of appearances to make the tree look more organic. However, for this one, the string serves a more practical purpose. The upper section with the branches is unfortunately a little too heavy for the way it's connected to the trunk. So in this case, the string is actually holding the two sections of the tree together. You can see here the upper section is starting to pull away from the lower section. This is simply due to the Technic axle not going up far enough through the trunk. So, lesson learned. But even though the tree required some non-traditional connections, I still really like how it turned out. I love the combination of orange, coral, and reddish orange for the leaves. The colors are close enough so that they all blend together nicely, but still different enough to give the foliage some depth. Of all the autumn leaf color combinations I've tried out, this is definitely my favorite. Then beneath the tree we have some more old tombstones, again utilizing some stickers for some added detail. And finally, let's go over the section on the right, which I also made a side build for. Essentially, it's just a mirror image of the last section. We have another trick-or-treater, this time dressed as a bee walking along with her mom, who's wearing a nice seasonally appropriate sweater, whom are also oblivious to ghosts lurking behind them. On the bench there's a woman reading a book on witchcraft, which is very fitting for Salem. And then behind the bench is a little bunny peeking out. The bench has some nice ornate iron details that fit in nicely with the fence in front of the cemetery. Speaking of the iron fence, I used harpoon pieces for the vertical posts and just a string for the horizontal one. The design is based on the fence in front of the real Old Burying Point Cemetery. So some of you may have noticed that the lampposts aren't the official LEGO lampposts. Instead, these are just some unofficial LEGO compatible pieces. And the reason I use these is because I wanted to light up the lamps with LEDs. Which I can do with these because these posts are hollow on the inside, whereas the LEGO lampposts are not. So you can run an LED wire up through them. I also wired the jack-o'-lantern sitting next to it with some LEDs. I didn't want to make the same mistake with this tree as I did with the last one, so I made sure that the Technic axle went all the way up and connected with the upper section of branches. But I tried something a little different for the foliage on this tree. Of course I used the normal 3-leaf pieces, star pieces, and quarter-rounded tiles that I've used before, but I also experimented with using the orange feathered wing pieces. I think it works pretty nicely and it helps to give the tree a little bit of a different look. Currently, you can see this MOC on display in person on Essex Street in Salem, just a block or two down from the Peabody Essex Museum's main entrance. It's in the last window right next to the Samuel Pickman house. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you for watching and stay tuned for more spooky builds.